Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Luca. Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Duncan, let me make you
Good morning.
co-host. Okay. It's done.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm in an extension, and at the moment, all the the heavens are opened here. It's quite noisy, but hopefully it's not. It doesn't come across on the microphone. I hope no. Good. We are really, in the UK, and I think really this is, I think the start of kind of like autumn, winter, and it's starting to get quite cold, and the heating has to go on, and so on. So, yeah, if you're in other parts of the world, it's warmer. I envy you right now. Let me start straight away. There's quite a few. I mean, every week as we come on into this crypto hour, and I know there's a few new faces here today. There are more things to talk about. I remember when I started this journey, let's say beginning of the year, it was difficult to find things in the news to talk about crypto and talk about blockchain. You really had to dig deep to find anything to talk about. That wasn't that was connected to reality, and wasn't just whether you didn't have just to trust me on what I was saying. Now it's everywhere in the news, and there are more and more things to look at every week. So let me just go and share a few of the news with you. Let me share my screen. Actually, first of all, let me highlight. Just give me a second. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, you can see my screen right now.
Rather than whispering, guys, you can mute your mics.
Yeah,
I'll do it for you. It's all right.
okay. Now, the first few things are related to what is going on in the US with the increasing regulatory activity, and obviously, although it doesn't affect the whole world of crypto, it's still quite relevant. The first thing I want to talk to you about is, we've heard a lot about Binance being banned in many countries and all that. So that hasn't really affected Binance's business. It simply has affected the way that they operate slightly, and so they are really making a strong push to comply with requirements and with regulations. So they are recruiting more people, on the compliance side of it, to help them, and they also reduce the activity, the regulated activity. And when I talk about regulated activity in many parts of the world, that is derivatives activity and trading, and not just a normal activity or spot exchanges, the way that you and me would use it generally to buy and sell tokens. And this is more like got to do with futures, with options, and with other forms of derivatives that are sold through these exchanges. Now, in a way, this is something that some regulation we got to welcome, because in my mind, derivatives interaction should be separate from spot exchanges, because you need to be a lot more educated to start dealing in derivatives than you do with just buying and selling tokens on an exchange. And I think the two things should be really separated, and it shouldn't be tempting people to easily in a couple of clicks being able to interact with derivatives without understanding them properly. Okay, so I'll say some of the things that are being that the authorities are forcing cryptocurrencies to do, and companies that deal in the cryptocurrency sector are actually to be welcomed. Okay, and this is one of them. The fact that Binance is kind of putting their house in order really is good news, as we see that there is a kind of a convergence of the cryptocurrency exchanges and the banking sector. So banks are becoming getting more offering more services to do with cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies are trying to move into the banking sector. So we are seeing now the first examples of both of banks trying to offer more services, and cryptos developing banking services. One of these, actually, I'll bring up. I don't know, some of you might have heard Coty. Coty announced yesterday they are going to release bank accounts and Visa debit cards. So this is Coty is a crypto, an Israeli crypto coin, and this is where we see the confluence on the banking and the crypto sector. So you'll be able having deposits on Coty and just transfer your crypto to fiat and just use it at the point of sale as you use any other credit card. I mean, it's still not the full way into doing crypto payments, because you still, at the point of sale, you will need to basically sell your crypto and use the local currency to buy the goods. So we're still a little bit away from the moment where you'll be able to go to the shops and pay directly with your cryptocurrency without exchanging it for cash. Okay, so but we will see it's a little bit more down the line, but it's not that far away. The moment you can go and spend your Bitcoin or spend your Cardano or any other cryptocurrency you have in your wallet, this is where this technology will have integrated completely into our lives. Okay, this is a very good example. Coty is coming to the news not just because of this, but also because they have developed Cardano's stablecoin called DJED, so it is something that has been on the crypto world news for the whole week. So they're really becoming one of the a major player in the interaction between crypto and the point of sale. Okay, so it's one of the really strong narratives at the moment, because more companies, more businesses want to accept crypto, and you need services like Coty's to being able to offer that step between the two worlds that can then allow you to seamlessly using your cryptos for day-to-day payments. Now, this is another thing. We're talking about the Fed chairman Powell. Again, he says, well, it's not going to be any crypto bank coming, but the regulation is necessary. Now, for those saying regulation is necessary, this is something that it's been on the cards for a while. So yes, it is coming. It won't be tomorrow. Okay, so it will take really, because this is kind of like it's a very difficult discussion point, because not one country could regulate crypto. Even as powerful as the US is, they don't have the power to regulate crypto worldwide. So here we need we really need decision to be made on a world level. And before cryptocurrency is fully regulated, it will probably take a couple of years from now for everybody to agree on standards of regulation. Okay, but it is now being talked about. Excuse me. So we should hear more and more about this, and discussion at least on the right way to go about it when we're talking about the regulation of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Now, on a similar subject, everybody might have heard about Gary Gensler, which is the SEC chairman in the US, and is also used to teach blockchain at the MIT in Boston. Now, lately, everybody's been asking themselves. I talked about last week, for example, about the discussion between Coinbase and the SEC, because Coinbase wanted to release a lend product where people could get interest on their stable coins and get like 4% interest back for their deposits. Now, and they asked for the SEC for some guidance, because they are a regulated company, they're on a stock exchange, they want to make sure that everything is above board and they do everything properly. Now, time and time again, the SEC has refused to provide some guidance on regulation. Okay, and this is the reason why they have refused so far, is that because the moment they say this is the way you should do things, then the door will be truly open for a lot of players to release products in the crypto sphere that compete directly with banks and bank accounts. Now, Coinbase itself, is already have the same security as a bank has in the US, not worldwide, but in the US I'm talking about. So, if you have money deposited in Coinbase, in your Coinbase account, it has the same security as if you have the same money deposited in your bank account. So you tell me, why would you have your savings in your local bank in the US earning 0.1, 0.2% interest, while you could have the same money deposited in your Coinbase account and earn 4% interest? Obviously, it's not life-changing, talking about 4% interest, but it's in direct competition with the banking industry, and this is why they've been so reluctant. The SEC has been so reluctant to offer clarity in regards to cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance in particular, because of this reason, because they see as the banking sector under threat. And obviously, when you think about the financial and the banking sector, really what we're talking about is stored power. Okay, so sorry, I can see some background noise. Can somebody mute their feed, please? Clarity in regards to cryptocurrencies and so I think it's Ene. Could you please mute your microphone? Okay, I think we're okay now. So what I was saying, the moment that they release regulatory clarity, then I think the game will truly be over for a lot of, especially a lot of smaller banks, unless they already organize themselves and they got themselves ready for for this coming of cryptocurrency into the mainstream. Just to make you understand, I mean, we've got people from the US here on this call now. So I just wanted to know if you do, any of you have heard of Dish or Boost mobile service? Because it's something that we found out last weekend in the Cardano summit, for example. Where now Cardano has closed a deal with Dish, which is a top Fortune 250 company, and Boost to put their digital identity on every single mobile phone that is going to be delivered by them. Okay, and so what does it mean to you and me? We mean, for example, forgetting about for many things the usernames and passwords, because you're going to have a secure identity on your phone that cannot be hacked, and you can use to log into everything that you want to log into safely. Okay, this is just one thing, and as after that, you can use that same identity to be able to share your data safely, only what you want to share and who you want to share it with, without giving them power over your data. Because at the moment we are acting now, it's very inefficient, and your data, basically your digital life, is you don't have control of it. Like, the power of it is in the hands of one authority or other, or certain particular companies that control the database of particular parts of your digital life, and having control of it is the first huge step to really step into the kind of a blockchain world, the blockchain economy, and making sure that your digital life is completely under your control and not under the control of other entities that are not maybe completely, they haven't got your interests at heart. Okay. So Now, again, we're talking about Cardano. This is another little bit of interest, and this is something that has been talked about in the Cardano ecosystem for a while. But Charles Hoskinson is the founder of Cardano, although now it's a completely decentralized organization. But he was saying as the Cardano network could be used to run a nation state in the future. And this is kind of like the next level of blockchain technology that we're talking about. Cardano is being famous and developed a very strong community because they see things, they are planning 10 years in the future. They're not planning to be the market leader tomorrow, but they're trying to put the infrastructure in place to do the things that we haven't even thought about in the blockchain world. Okay, and one of the things that they are stronger than anybody else, they have invested heavily in governance. So they are governance scientists that are working full time in a Cardano organization to regulate everything and provide the right infrastructure so that we can do elections on the blockchain, so that we can run democratic institutions on the blockchain. And they are thinking about all the steps that we need to put in place before we can literally run a nation state on a blockchain, whether it's Cardano or if it is somewhere else. And everything they do, by the way, is completely open sourced. So it is something that they are providing to humanity as a whole, not for their personal gain. Okay, and this is the power of a lot of this technology, is that it will not make Google or Facebook or any other company rich, but it make the community rich. So it's literally, this is the power to the people that we're talking about, and that's why a lot of organizations and a lot of institutions are fighting against it, because it means kind of losing their power and giving it back to the people, which they really don't want to do. Okay, I've got another little bit of news that I wanted to share with you, and then we can start some question and answers. Now, this is something that you can all take part into if you're interested in Africa and you're thinking now, and you want to know how this technology is actually making things happen in the world. There's the Africa Blockchain Institute. They're also in partnership with the Algorand Foundation. They have done a research in Africa, particularly Nigeria, South Africa, Tunisia, and Kenya, on blockchain news, cases, and government policies, and misconceptions, and so on. So you can register. It's going to be a Zoom event and on October the 21st. So come and find out. Go and take part in these things and find out what difference it is making, and how some of the countries that are started a lot behind us, a lot behind the Western industrialized world, are managing to kind of like jump over all steps in the kind of the modernization, and they're able to jump into the best way of doing things. Because when you think about it, you talk about the US, the UK, Europe, they've spent billions and billions in develop their infrastructure. Okay. And now, although some of these infrastructure could be, there are better ways of doing things, and it could be really side steps. It means like throwing away a huge level of investment. So there is that problem, because you have a legacy infrastructure. You can't really embrace the new system as fully as it deserves to be embraced. But some of these countries, we're talking about, with Cardano, for example, we've got the examples of Ethiopia, where they provided, identities to over 5 million students. Tanzania, when there is kind of, you can see my T-shirt, World Mobile, that is offering connectivity to rural villages that haven't seen electricity or Wi-Fi connectivity before, although everybody has a phone. So all these kind of like steps, and there are leaders that are they are very, very well versed in this technology, and they are embracing. So we might be in the situation, 1, 2, 3 years down the line, that some of these countries are better systems than we have in the West, and can start catching up kind of like the wealth gap that there is between some of these countries. We're talking about not just Africa, we're talking about South America, parts of Asia, Eastern Europe. You know, a lot of these countries can now start to catch up because they don't have all the barriers that we have. We've seen, for example, lately we talked about last week about Kazakhstan, about Ukraine. They are provided legal framework for cryptocurrencies to operate in, and for blockchain companies in the blockchain world to freely and legally set up in these countries. So they're trying to attract more traffic. And the other thing also that is important to talk about, I mean, we all have heard about El Salvador, and it's kind of like almost like an experiment everybody is watching very closely. And after only a few weeks of their experiment actually starting in live and Bitcoin being accepted for payments across El Salvador, now there are more active Bitcoin wallets being used than there are bank accounts in El Salvador. So they already made a difference, in the sense they 70% of the population in El Salvador doesn't have a bank account. So they already allowed people to interact with the financial system now, not through their bank account, but through their Kiva wallet, which is a kind of a Bitcoin wallet that El Salvador has developed for their citizens, and as an incentive is also put some money on each one that downloaded this wallet. They gave some free Bitcoin as well, so they could start. I think it was about $100 worth of Bitcoin or something like this, and so they could start using. You can see how you can solve some of these problems, not in decades, but literally in months, by this new technology, because it's possible in El Salvador. So it will be possible in other countries where you got a similar disconnect between the banking system, the financial system, and the people on the ground. Many places in Africa, they don't use their national currency. They don't want it, so they find any other way of trading, and there was a very famous system that was developed in Kenya, where people, instead of trading in the national currency, they were exchanging mobile minutes for payment for goods and services. So this shows you how there is a demand, a need for this kind of services in many parts of the world, although we don't see maybe in the UK, in the US, because we got strong institutions, we got a stable sort of currency. We don't have these sort of problems, but whether for us are a nicety, for many places in the world are a necessity. And this is, I think, where the revolution is really happening, is from the ground up. So people that need these things to live on, really, are adopting it. They're not waiting for permission, because you don't need any in the decentralized world. So again, I've been talking for about 25 minutes. So let's hear you as well. Let's hear some questions.
I'd love to see some questions.
Yeah.
That time has just gone so quickly. Eric has got a question. When is Ethereum 2.0 fully in use?
Yeah, I wish I knew. Then I would be, I could use it to do some really smart trading. But nobody knows. There is, they are trying to rush it in as quick as they can, because they're losing market share by the day. As anybody paid any attention and seen the growth of Solana, Avalanche, Cosmos, and all these projects are really taking market share away from Ethereum. So there is another update coming in October. So they are trying to rush it for, I think, beginning of next year. I mean, it is possible that it will be deployed by the end of the year, but not likely. So we're really talking about next year, some stage. In the meantime, there are the layer 2 solutions that are slowly starting to get more use, and there are many of those that are becoming available. And so those are in a way where you do things not on the blockchain but off the blockchain, and then you rely on the main chain, like for example Polygon has done, and other solutions as well. So that's a good question. I wish I had the answer for you, but I don't. One thing also I want to say on that front is that obviously Ethereum 2.0 has a staking address, okay, where you can stake your Ethereum, and but the only thing is that your Ethereum, once you've put it in there, it's you can't unstake it until Ethereum 2.0 is live. So it is almost like a blind trust on Ethereum. But this address has been amassing Ethereum more and more, because obviously they are paying an interest rate as well, which is always welcome. So the result is that the Ethereum in circulation is becoming less and less. So there is a kind of like a supply shock, and the Ethereum has been leaving exchanges as well. So the level of Ethereum on exchanges has never been this low. So as usual, you know, what we think on you know, what happens in these cases is that, you know, we got supply and demand, and that's what is determining price. You know, supply is diminishing because of the improvement proposal that was applied at the beginning of August, where some Ethereum is burnt with every block that's being created, and at the same time Ethereum is being deposited in a place where you can't touch it as well. So there is less and less Ethereum in circulation. The demand is still growing because there is decentralized finance, there are NFTs. So there's lots of apps on Ethereum that use Ethereum, that need to use Ethereum. So it is putting kind of like, it's almost creating a bubble that at some stage Ethereum seems to grow in spurts. It doesn't have a linear growth. So it will sit for months doing next to nothing, and then it will jump 2 or 3 times in value. So something like that could happen soon as well. Okay, other questions? Jaya said, do you think we should use Koti as an aggressive project? Well, Koti is one of those small projects that are becoming big. So up to you. This is not say financial advice, but definitely is one of those projects to watch very closely. At the moment, as you know, as we've discussed before, when you're investing, you also look at a chart of particular projects. You know, now Koti are hitting all-time highs, but at the same time they got a very strong narrative. So you know, it is definitely a very good projects to have in your portfolio. Jonathan, I don't know what that Twitter that you put in the thing is.
So it's an interesting chart. It was for the question about Ethereum 2. So the suffering that Ethereum is having at the moment, and not getting up to speed with their Ethereum 2 plans, is directly impacting Cardano's release of smart contracts. So this is a chart of active wallets on Ethereum blockchain versus the Cardano blockchain. So you can see the recent rise of Cardano, and that's because it solves the transaction price problem essentially. So yeah, it's just an interesting chart to see. Watching.
Thank you very much. Yeah. For those of you that are interested in Cardano, I mean, what I will say is that you ain't seen nothing yet. You know, really, because although the smart contract functionality is being released, then you know the way it works is that you release the code, so developers can use the code and build on the system. Then they have to go out and build these apps, you know, these products. And after they build them, generally, also if they are good projects, they have to get them certified. And there is a bottleneck with certification, because there aren't that many blockchain certification companies of good quality that can do that. So it takes, you have the code, then you have to produce the goods, so you have to get them certified. So it takes a good, 2-3 months at least to come onto the market. And so we'll see, although we've had on the 12th of September, we had the Cardano smart contracts being released, and we have still we haven't seen the major project being released on Cardano. And this will probably come, there's a few of them, they are now on the cards to deploy in October. So the moment we see this, then we'll see the activity on Cardano will balloon as well, because people will have alternatives to doing things on Ethereum, and we'll start moving onto Cardano. and we even, they also have a I can't remember the name how you call it, but there's a kind of like a porting system, so you can transfer your tokens from Ethereum to Cardano, and the first project to do that would be SingularityNet. There would be, would become from being an Ethereum token to being kind of like multi-chain token. So and there's kind of like, you can have your tokens on Cardano, on Ethereum, and move them from one to the other if you want to. But they also announced that they are going to move most of their activity, from the artificial intelligence side of it from Ethereum to Cardano. So you will soon find that Cardano will become the dominant side of that project. Okay, let's take some more questions, please.
No pressing issues for anybody. We're a quiet bunch today, aren't we? And so much has been going on as well. One thing that I'd like to point out, you probably hate me mentioning this because it's not what Crypto Hour is all about, but I've noticed that often when we're on Crypto Hour, it's a time when I definitely don't tend to look at my phone or the exchanges or anything. And I've noticed that we seem to have a knack of really, having a negative effect, because almost every week I get off Crypto Hour and I have a quick look at the coins that Luke has been talking about, and everything seems to have lost a little bit. But I'm happy to report that your energy is fantastic today, because things just seem to be going through the roof as you're talking today, Luca.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to do with the again, derivatives expiration day. If you want to keep your mind, and invest in crypto at the same time, you've got to stop looking at the charts pretty much, because otherwise you get, you feel your heart in your throat every time the prices go down, and you start getting overexcited when the price goes up, go up. I always say, kind of like, zoom out and take a break, because if you're looking at the right projects, then you do well in the long run. If you start looking at charts every day and trying to time the markets, to the minutes to get the top and the bottom, it's a very difficult business.
Impossible. The best advice I've ever had, really, Luca, from anybody, and it was from you, was this little rhyme: if in doubt, zoom out. Because if you do start looking at the charts, you do start to notice things appearing to move around really quickly. And it's just because you're looking over too small a time frame, always, it seems to me. If you do that little zoom out, whatever you think you've spotted is just so insignificant, it's not even worth bothering your mind with. That's my take,
exactly.
Anyway.
Especially we're talking about new technology, and it's not just blockchain and the coins that we're looking at. But if you look at even at companies that have been involved in new technology, whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon, and you look at the stock price charts, you see that there have gone some incredible ups and downs, and it's the kind of like adoption curve in new technology. I was discussing earlier on Clubhouse with somebody about how can you consider Bitcoin a store of value when the price goes up and down so much, so volatile. But again, if you look at it in 2 or 3 months range, it can seem like that. But look at it on a zoom out and look at it on a long-term range, and you'll see that it's a lot more stable than a lot of the things that you had in generally in your life. If you were storing value in Bitcoin or storing them in cash, you understand over time the power of the code that it's immutable. It's immutable and you can rely on, where some of the other assets that you interact with, you don't have control over. And there are other people that do have, control, or directly or indirectly, of the rules connected to it, and can affect, the prices related to it. So, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to, to live more in the blockchain world than I'm in the, in the traditional world, especially as it's very, for me, it's very uncertain the way that the authorities will deal with the impending collapse of the financial system. And I mean, if you look online, I mean, start looking at the, the Great Reset. And I said, just Google it yourself and just start reading about it, because it's something that's being talked about at multinational level, at the Economic Forum. So it would be kind of like a decision to think of how we're going to deal with the exchange of value when this system is not fit for purpose anymore. And we're getting very closely. We get faster and faster towards that point. So I think when that happens, how are you going to be set up? How are you going to deal with it? Because the things that you relied on and you thought they were kind of like yours, and you could let's say rely on and think of them as your possessions, may not be yours anymore. May be decided that you'll be happier owning nothing. So in that case, I mean, if you don't have a plan B, you'll be completely in the hands of somebody else that thinks that they know what's best for you.
Last question from Jaya,
Yeah.
and asking about gas fees. And is there a way or a time which it's best to do your transfers? Because I've noticed myself that gas fees can vary wildly, and sometimes you're paying $30 and sometimes you're paying near $3. So please, any input on that?
Yeah, a very simple thing that you can do. You can download an extension for your browser. It's called, or you can look on the website as well, called GasNow. Gasnow.com, I think it's gasnow.com or gasnow.io. I don't remember now. But I have it on my browser. So let me show you. Let me just share my screen for a second so I can show you on the browser. Okay. So you see this now? Yeah, can you see my screen? Yeah. So I've got this extension here. So if I click on it, it tells me exactly what the gas cost is on Ethereum. And then if you look on the full website, I think you can also look at an estimation of what it is going to be at different days, different times of the day, different days in the week. Okay, but at the moment you can see the transaction. But then this is the gas cost. Okay, but different transactions on Ethereum have got a different cost. So one thing is you just have to transfer coins from one wallet to another. Another cost is if you have to interact with smart contracts, for example. So depending on what you need to do, the higher this number is, obviously the more expensive it is. And although you can see here $4.67, sometimes if you have to interact with smart contracts, it might cost you $30, $40, $50, which is not fun. And this is why a lot of other blockchains you see how it's changing all the time, changing very, very quickly. So it's and often the highest prices in when there is activity going on related to NFTs, because when there are NFTs drop, for example, on OpenSeas, this is when you can see the cost going to maybe from 60 or 50 as we're seeing right now to 110, 120, 130. So you really don't want to put your transaction through when the gas prices are high. Okay, so I hope that helped, Jaya. You can look at, as I said, let me just see what the website is. I think it's guestnow.org. Okay, but if you go onto the extension store on your Chrome browser or whatever browser you're using, then it will be available as an extension, so you can see it directly in your browser without having to visit the website. Okay. Now, Carol was asking about with the US guarantee on the Coinbase account. Is that only for US residents? Yes, unfortunately it is. So as far as I know, there is no service in the UK, for example, that gives you the same guarantee as you have on your bank account.
Coinbase Pro do offer it in the UK. I think you have to have had the account for 6 months though, because I got an email through quite recently saying that they were introducing it. We did speak about it before, but Carol's in Australia anyway, so that didn't need, I didn't offer that information, but it was pretty useless too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, Carol's mentioned that it seems like gas now is ending, and there's
It's not the only. I mean, I'm not married to gas now.
I just googled it.
Yeah, exactly. Just put gas prices. You know, Ethereum gas prices, and there will be different options. You know. So I just mentioned that one. It's kind of the one I've been using. Why did you say there's gas now is being ending? I don't know.
No, Pierre mentions that he's seen it's ending on 15th of October. I just went on the website and didn't see it, but
you can see. I mean, you can have a look at
comment.
it on, if you want. You can have a look at it on Etherscan. You know, you can do it on Etherscan, and that's, you know, you go a gas tracker there. So there's not, you know, just because that particular website is ending doesn't mean that you can't see the gas prices somewhere else. Okay.
I just managed to get lots of petrol price comparison sites up there. So quick
Yes.
look for people, because you know they call it gas, don't they, over there?
I know. If you look at it on Etherscan, you can also see the you know, which projects are using the blockchain on you know, on the Ethereum blockchain. For example, you can see OpenSea is the biggest driver of gas at the moment. Uniswap, and Tether, and then Axie Infinity. Those are the four, you know, the four biggest gas guzzlers. But anyway, these are just you know, again, things like this. They're always alternatives. Sometimes I find the, you know, gas now was actually useful because you can put it in your browser. But yeah, there are plenty of places where you can get prices of Ethereum gas.
Useful information. I think it's going to be up to you what you'd like to talk about now, Luca, if you want to fill the time, because people don't seem to have too many questions. We have just an absolute panel of experts here. Can't just be me that's got questions about it.
Okay. I mean, if you don't have questions, then it's something I would like to maybe explain to you, because you know, often most people come into cryptocurrencies and blockchain because of money. Okay, I think, oh, it's a good way to make some money, to invest, and, you know, buy a few tokens and then sell them when they're higher and so on. But if we again let's try to zoom out again and thinking about, okay, what is this technology doing and where are we going with it? Because that's a real thing, you know. And if you start asking yourself those questions, if you start reading about it, then maybe you understand a little bit better of you know, what is happening right now. And especially, I mean, I know that if you read about the Great Reset, it might sound a little bit far-fetched, okay? I think it's the first time for many years from, you know, when we were talking about the big revolutions that we had last century, for example, it's the first time that we really are talking about, you know, how should we run our countries? How should we run our institutions? You know, and it's the first time that direct democracy has become a possibility, because we always kind of like delegated our voting power, which is something that our grandfathers and great grandfathers have actually fought, to gain the right to. We've always been happy to give it to somebody else to deal with it and to make things happen. That we just listen and we just do whatever they tell us to do. Now, for the first time, there is a technology that allows us to literally be able to vote on everything if we wanted to. And I mean, I know that I keep talking about Cardano in this room because I'm really, I would say, in love with the project. But Cardano is a good example because it's also is a kind of like a self-sufficient system that has a strong community. The community generates a treasury. The treasury is then used by the community to support the worthiest projects, and so it's kind of like it's self-funding, self-supporting economy that keeps growing and growing and growing. And it grew from a few hundred people to a few thousands. Now we are into kind of the hundreds of thousands of people that are taking part in voting each round. So you can see, as now we've already grown to a size where some of the smallest countries could literally be represented on the blockchain and could operate the democratic activity on the blockchain. And there is a technology that can allow for seamless interaction to trusting the documents of the person that interacts with the blockchain, to registering their decision to vote for one proposal or another, and to then automatically put the winning proposals into action straight away because they hard coded into action. So I'm thinking, we see time and time again, we always say, this doesn't work. Whatever it is, whether it's education, whether it's financial system, whether it's your local council that's got the system, doesn't have enough funds to do, to come and collect your rubbish, for example. Now, the thing is that we're all talking about it. We're good at moaning about things that don't work. But what you got to understand that now we can actually do something about it. And if things don't work, we can build an alternative and start using it. And this is what projects like Cardano are doing. It's not like very quietly, very much in the background. Things are not talked about, but it's very likely that if you live in the US and you go and buy a mobile phone, you're going to have some of this technology embedded in it. And this is just the first example, the first kind of like real case, big consumer product that is going to be delivered. But obviously, there are many things, many deals in the background that are going on right now. And there are many discussions, even at the national state level, that are being held to run parts of these countries' systems on the blockchain. So this is not something like just interesting and kind of like where can we, where can we earn a little bit of money, or where can we save for our future, for our pension? But literally is, we are coming to the moment where things will start crumbling around us. Now, whether we have something in place, a plan B that we worked on, and we have something to replace it or not, it's up to all of us. And this is now, what is so interesting is that these organizations, they're all being born as completely autonomous, completely decentralized, and they all require, the one thing that they require our interaction. So if we kind of like sit behind passively and we see what other people are doing, then we're just going to have to take whatever is decided, without having a say. But we do have a say, and we do have an option to make our opinion count. So will we use it or not, or we just are the sheep that we just follow what somebody else is doing? Because what's coming down the line is scary. It really is scary. and unless we do something about it now that can provide an alternative, we are really looking into dark places. So I'm sorry that I don't want to scare you or being too dramatic, but I really do believe that this is what's coming. I mean, as an economist, I can see the kind of the macroeconomic movements that are going on, and there is no easy solution for this. There is. It's almost like every time there has been a round of monetary easing, it's almost like kicking the can down the line. And if you don't believe me, go and read some summaries of some of the big thinkers in the Austrian School of Economics, and maybe you'll understand it. You understand what disaster it is to abandon a monetary system that's based on a scarce item like gold, and just floating freely in the ether in the fiat system. And if you just listen to the word fiat, let it be done. Let it be done. Let money be done. We need money. They just print it. They're just coming. And this is it's fine. It's fine in the beginning, and then it starts growing and growing and growing, and it's getting to the point where now it's out of control. And all the leverage that the authorities have to manage that are just disappearing. So the only thing they've got left now is to print more money, and print more money, and print more money, and print more money. And if you don't understand what's happening, have a look at what's happening in Zimbabwe. Okay, and ask somebody that lives in Zimbabwe what they're using to buy their bread, or to buy to go to the shop and buy the newspaper. They're not using Zimbabwean currency. That I can guarantee you. They're actually coming up with their own system of IOUs to exchange value. So they're using mainly the US dollars, but the US dollars, they don't have any small denominations. So literally they're printing their own money pretty much, because they can't use the national currency. This is just one country, obviously, but as this is progressing, it's going to affect more and more countries. And because everything is interconnected, small economy failing will affect medium economies, and medium economies failing, then you affect big economies, and you just move on from one stage to another. So yeah, this is kind of like my let's say look from the clouds and see where we're aiming to go. But they actually encouraging on the other side of the coin is that what is really encouraging is to see these cryptocurrency movements, and even kind of like the NFT movements, and really with democratic participation of people from that everybody is paying an interest to. It's really encouraging because there are people that understand this and are thinking, even on an intuitive level, even if they don't understand the economic reasons why we are at this point, they are understanding that they can do things themselves, and there's a different way that they can live their life. They don't necessarily have to do what is coming down from the authorities, but they can create new ways of doing things, new way of interacting with other people, and they don't have to ask anybody for permission. They just have to do it. Sorry, Archie will say, Mike Maloney, they did Secret Money. Yes, watch that. If you got about 10 hours to dedicate to it, it's really good. Will make you understand a lot of these things. Obviously, the angle for the hidden secrets of money is that they're sponsored by a company that deals in gold and silver, so their solution to everything is buy gold and silver instead. But the economic explanation is really good. So I will agree with you, Archie. Go and watch it. It's free to watch on YouTube. So it would take you a while though. It's quite long, but it's really good to understand economic tidal movements. And one other thing, maybe that the one big message, and you can understand from that. Is we all think that the system that is the financial system that we're in now it's infallible. But if you look back in history, there are many times that a fiat currency system has been tried, and never once in history it has been successful. and they explain in that theory the exact stages that an economy goes through, moving from a gold-based system to a fiat system, and then the fading of the fiat system. Roughly, when you look into it, happens mainly about once every 50 years on average. And this goes from days from Greek and Roman times to modern days. So it's not a new thing. And if you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, just look at that and you'll understand it.
There's a question from Annie that I might have to ask you to explain it. Annie, she pointed out Litecoin and Cardano and said, is there something to consider about these two cryptos if we look at their analyses? So can I guess, Annie, that you've noticed something specific about them, or are you just asking if Filecoin?
Yes, just if I look at those two, just a minute, there are two, they both, or many of those cryptocurrencies have, if you go down analysis, and there are like two indicators, like which show like a large transactions and network growth. And for example, one of them is it Litecoin, who had really both like on green area, and Cardano has shows it has no large transaction. I just wanted to know, do you consider
What is your question?
like that, or how you put together this correlation? Of course, something like that.
What correlation? What correlation between Cardano and
no, for example, that Cardano probably has growing network, but not that many large transactions, and the Litecoin has both of them. And there are some cryptocurrencies where you see just was it Dogecoin what had large transactions but no network growth. So
okay, I mean, if you want to understand something, the large transactions, normally you see the more a cryptocurrency is centralized, and the more you will see large transactions. So it's not something that you really want to see.
Okay.
If you're looking at something that is Cardano, is completely decentralized, and you see, especially like you're talking about Dogecoin, Solana. If you look at the whale wallets, and you see that 90% of the coins are in less than 10 wallets, then I would worry. Because it means that very few hands have control of the supply of that whole coin. Okay, so really, if you want something that you want to interact with, and you want to make sure that there is nobody playing silly games with that coin, then you really want to be in a project that's highly decentralized, where the coins are very well spread out into as many wallets as possible, and where you don't see one economic agent being able to drastically move the markets by selling a large amount of coins. And this is what, where everybody's gone crazy on Dogecoin, for example, at the start of the year, thinking it's kind of like is a solution for everybody, kind of like it's it's the freedom coin because everybody owns it. Well, it is not actually. It is owned by very few people.
It is what I wanted to point out, that it is good to consider.
It's not, I mean, yes, you can have a look at, when you are analyzing a project, then it is one of the things that you should look at is how, first of all, if all the coins are in circulation or not, because some of them have got a release schedule. So you might see some projects that are already of the launch are in the market, but only 10% of the coins are in circulation. So then you want to have a look, okay, is the other 90% going to be released? And who's got control over that? Are they going to be released in a decentralized manner like Bitcoin? Or are they being pre-minted and some of the founders have maybe 50% of the coins in their pockets? So they're all things that need to be considered, but it's difficult to say. It's not just one thing that will tell you all the information you want. It's a combination. It's a combination of things. It's like if you're analyzing a company on the stock market, you don't really use one ratio. You don't use the return on equity or the return on investment to tell you everything that you need to know. But if you want to analyze it properly, you have to have a ratio 3 that will show you the relationship between the different aspects of the company. So it is a little bit complicated to explain like this in 2 minutes, but there are many different indicators. There isn't one indicator that can say, yes, that indicator is better and I'll go for that company instead of that company.
No, it is absolutely what I wanted to hear, that exactly to point out how much control, for example, over some cryptocurrency, maybe some little group has or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So other questions?
No, there's an extremely extensive question from Robin about VPNs and Ledger Nanos. And I did say that it's something that you can answer given the time. But I think we've also probably got somewhere a video or a clip I could give to Robin where you're talking about security in quite some detail, because it is quite an expansive subject, isn't it?
Okay, VPNs it depends if you want to use them for your computer or not, and kind of are a good idea to keep your activity on the internet. To keep, like, I would say, eyes to finding out exactly what you are doing, because whenever you're doing anything on the internet, you are sharing your IP address, which is kind of like each computer has a individual address, and so this address is recorded. So although you are doing things on, for example, on blockchain that you think are anonymous, at the same time your activity is recorded because they know where the transaction is coming from geographically. So they know the particular transaction will be coming from your house, for example. So if you want to hide that for whatever reason, and I'm not saying it's something that you should do or you shouldn't do, then you use a VPN, which kind of masks your IP address, so people cannot really find out where you are connecting to the internet from. You could make it look like you're connecting from any country in the world by using a VPN. So in terms of security, and you're talking about Ledger. I mean, the Ledger is probably Ledger and Treasure are very. Sorry, let's go one step back. It really depends on when you're interacting with blockchain. Are you interacting through an exchange, or are you interacting with a decentralized exchange? If you're interacting with a decentralized exchange, then there's nothing really more secure than a Ledger or a Treasure wallet, or any other sort of cold wallet, because when you're using an interface like a MetaMask or Trust Wallet or something like that, then you would have to confirm the transactions on your ledger, which you physically have your hands on. Okay, so even somebody hacked into your computer, they couldn't access obviously your ledger until it is connected to the internet. Okay, so that's the definitely more secure way of interacting, because then the moment that you unplug it, is not accessible to anybody anymore. So it is the best way. If you are instead interacting from an exchange, then there are different things to put in place depending which exchange are you using. But the one little thing to do, everybody can do, is never to click on any links that you receive on emails, that you receive on social media, that you receive by any form, WhatsApp or whatever it is. Because that's the easiest way of giving somebody access to your computer, is just like clicking on links that you shouldn't click on, and then what that takes you to an interface that looks like something that you're familiar with. Like, for example, you get an email from Binance saying, "Oh, look, you need to change your security in your account. Click here," and then it takes you to a page that just looks exactly like your Binance login page, and you start typing in your details, and instead of going into Binance, they go onto a scammer's website that gets all your username and passwords. Okay, so whenever you get an email or information that tells you to do something, always close the email, log into the service as you normally do, not through the link they provided you, and then do whatever and see if actually it is something that you really need to do, and then you go and do it with the service that you're using. Because generally, when you think about scammers, there's nobody there behind the internet trying to get physically into your computer. What they tend to do, they tend to use the game on numbers. So they send the same message to hundreds of thousands of people, and they know that if they do that, maybe 50 or 100 would respond and be able to scam them and get money out of them. Okay, but this is it. You know what they are really betting on is a game on numbers. They know that 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 will respond. They don't even care. You know, they know that somebody will, and then they will scam those people. But if you don't click, you're very unlikely to be scammed. So you know, there are so many things that you can do on your computer, but if you just follow the basic principles, you'd be a lot safer. Really. The other thing that you can use, okay, which is very simple. If you have a camera on your computer, and most of us do, make sure it is closed, either closed or even just put a piece of paper in front of it, piece of, you know, post-it note or something like that, so that somebody cannot use the camera to look at what you are doing. Because that's another way that sometimes some viruses can give people access to your camera, and that's another way that they can get and understand what your password are if the camera is pointing down at your keyboard. Okay, so couple of things that can help security without going into too many details. Okay. Any more questions?
Not really. Archie was just asking about, is it okay to use an incognito window? And I jumped in and said, please don't rely on that for your security. So hopefully you won't.
Sometimes the incognito windows are more like to stop because your computer stores a lot of what they called information to help you connect onto websites, and sometimes it can interfere with things that you want to interact with, especially if you have, you know, more accounts on a particular website. So incognito window, it just, you start everything from afresh, so it doesn't look at all your cookies and everything else. All your activity is start afresh, although it might take a little longer to connect it to things because you won't recognize your computer. So it will often, you know, things like Binance, like Kraken, they asking you, oh, it looks like you're connecting from a new device, or they ask you for additional security, generally that. Yeah, I don't just rely on that for your security. You're right, Duncan.
I think that's all we have in the way of questions. I must say myself, if you wish to continue, I'm going to have to leave, Luca, because I have another call myself now.
Yeah, no,
so,
we'll call, unless you have any last minute question, we'll close the room now and we'll adjourn to next week. I mean, if you have any particular questions, and if you get them ready before the call, it makes things easier, so we can go straight to the questions instead of like taking time in between the call, because we only have an hour. The one thing, Robin, do not, if you buy the Ledger Nano, don't buy the Nano S. Buy the Nano X. So it's more expensive, but if Nano S is very limited on what you can do with it, so just a waste of money for me. Okay. All right. Okay. So is it space thing, or would it be a ledger focus? So the Nano S is a kind of like a simpler version, but you can only store a certain number of coins. Okay, bye. Bye, Duncan. Okay, so yeah, it's very limited, so it's not really worth having unless what you do with coins is very limited. So Nano X is a much better product, and that's why it costs more as well. Okay, all right then. So let's close the room and say I'm still happy to stay for a few more minutes if you have questions. But if there are any more, I think we covered most of the questions that we had. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I will adjourn to next week. Okay, and Jonathan,
thank you all.
Sorry, before we finish the call, Jonathan, if you got some time today, maybe we can have a chat. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, sure, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I can carry on after
No
this if you want.
Yeah, let's get in touch. And I'll close this, and then I'll if you're free straight away, actually we can start another room if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay then. So goodbye everyone, and I will see you again next.